Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world with me, Deepika, coming up in the next 30 minutes. At least 69 feared dead following massive fire at mall in Iraq's Al-Quds city, many still missing. Ukraine's parliament appoints Yulia Severenko as country's new prime minister. President Zelensky says deputy prime minister to become new envoy to the US. Syrian government and leaders of Druze minority announce fresh ceasefire following US intervention. UNSC to discuss situation today. And G20 finance ministers meeting opens under trade tariff uncertainty. South Africa's Godongwana urges unity. Good evening to all the viewers joining us at this current broadcast. To begin with the latest, a devastating fire broke out in a shopping mall in eastern Iraq's Al-Quds city, claiming at least 69 lives and 11 missing cases. The cause of the fire is not yet specified. However, country's interior ministry said that most of the victims died from suffocation, particularly in the bathrooms. The province's governor said initial results from an investigation would be announced within 48 hours, adding that lawsuits have been filed against the owner of the building and the mall. Syria's interim president Ahmad al-Shara promised to protect the rights of Druze citizens on Thursday as a ceasefire appeared to be holding in the country's south following US intervention to end fighting between the government forces and Druze fighters. Syria's interim president Ahmad al-Shara has now said that protecting the Druze citizens and their rights is their priority. In his first televised statement after the powerful Israeli airstrikes in Damascus on Wednesday, Shara addressed Druze citizens, saying they reject any attempt to drag Druze into the hands of an external party. He added that the Syrian people are not afraid of war and are ready to fight if their dignity is threatened.
I also address the Druze people, who are an integral part of the fabric of this nation. Syria will never be a place for division or fragmentation or sowing discord among its people. We assure you that protecting your rights and freedom is one of our priorities, and we reject any effort that aims to drag you to an external party or to create division within our ranks.
Let's now take a closer look at the deeply complex sectarian and ethnic mosaic shaping Syria's ongoing conflict. From Sunni Muslims to Alawites, Druze, Kurds and Christians, each group has a distinct history, role and stake in the nation's fragile future.
Syria's population of over 20 million is overwhelmingly Sunni Muslim, but also includes a mix of Alawites, Christians, Druze, Shiites and Kurds, each with deep-rooted identities. Sunni Muslims have long dominated Syria's cultural centers like Damascus and Aleppo. But since Hafez al-Assad seized power in 1970, power shifted towards Alawite minority. In 1982, the Syrian branch of the Sunni Islamist Muslim Brotherhood launched an unsuccessful revolt against Hafez al-Assad. The Alawites, just 10% of the population, gained prominence under the Assads. They were a historically poor rural community from Syria's mountainous coastal region. Hailing from the Alawite village of Qardaha, Hafez al-Assad seized power after climbing the ranks in the military and the Ba'ath Party. Druze communities rooted in southern Sweden maintain a degree of secrecy about the practice of their faith, which incorporates elements from Islam and other philosophies, emphasizing monotheism and reincarnation. The minority group that also has members in Lebanon, Israel, and the Israeli-occupied Golan Heights. Kurds are Syria's largest non-Arab ethnic group at around 10% of the population and are concentrated near the border with Turkey and Iraq. They are part of a stateless ethnic group spread between Syria, Turkey, Iran, Iraq, and Armenia. Christians, though small in number, are diverse: the Greek Orthodox, Maronites, Syriac Orthodox, and Catholics, Chaldeans, Assyrians, and Armenian Orthodox and Catholics, and a few Protestants. With ethnic and sectarian lines shaping alliances and battlefronts, interim President Sharra's efforts to unify Syria face daunting challenges. The road to peace in Syria must navigate centuries of history and a mosaic of identities, each demanding a voice in the nation's uncertain future. Bureau Report, DD India.
Ukraine's parliament voted on Thursday to appoint Yulia Servadenko as the country's new prime minister. According to several lawmakers, 262 of them voted for Servadenko, a comfortable majority in the 450-seated parliament. Her appointment was supported by President Volodymyr Zelensky as part of his biggest government reshuffle. Now, Ukraine's newly appointed Prime Minister said that her government would be launching a full audit of public finances to achieve real savings and that large-scale privatizations should be accelerated. Servadenko has served as economy minister and one of Ukraine's deputy prime ministers since November 2021. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky on Thursday said Olha Stefanishyna would become the country's new ambassador to the United States. She's been a deputy prime minister responsible for Euro-Atlantic integration. Zelensky on social media said that he had appointed her as the special presidential representative to the US so that she could develop relations with Washington while the procedures necessary for her appointment took place. In the latest update, Russia and Ukraine have accused each other of targeting civilians, something that both the sides deny in the course of conflict. Russian authorities on Thursday claimed that Russian air defense units destroyed 122 Ukrainian drones overnight that targeted the capital, Moscow, and scores of other Russian regions, injuring at least one person. In a social media post, Russian Defense Ministry said more than half of the drones were destroyed over Belgorod, Kursk and Bryansk regions that border Ukraine. Earlier, Ukrainian drone attack killed 3 people and injured at least 17 others in the Belgorod region, Regional Governor Vyacheslav Gladkov said. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz will travel to London on Thursday in his first visit there since taking the office in the month of May this year. The visit is intended to deepen the close ties between the two countries. During the visit, the German Chancellor and the UK Prime Minister are expected to sign a friendship treaty covering foreign and security cooperation. The upcoming treaty will also include measures aimed at boosting economic growth and encouraging stronger people-to-people contacts between the two nations. Now, last October, the UK and Germany agreed a milestone defence pact, and they have since announced several joint initiatives, such as developing strike missiles. The British government said on Thursday it planned to give 16 and 17-year-olds the right to vote in all UK elections in a major overhaul of country's democratic system. The government said the proposed changes, which are subject to Parliament approval, would align voting rights across the UK with Scotland and Wales, where younger voters already participate in default elections. The reforms would also expand acceptable voter ID to include UK-issued bank cards and digital formats of existing IDs, such as driving licenses and veteran cards. To tackle foreign interference, the government said it also planned to tighten rules on political donations, including checks on contribution over $670 from unincorporated associations. The European Commission has proposed a $2.31 trillion European Union budget for 2028 till 2034, prioritizing economic competitiveness and defense spending, with plans to overhaul traditional spending on farming and regional development. Most of the funding for the budget comes from the governments of the European Union member countries. The Commission also pitched dedicating 100 billion euros for Ukraine outside of the budget structure. The proposal marks the start of a year of intense negotiations before a final budget is agreed by all member countries and signed off by the European Parliament. The proposal allocates 131 billion euros specifically to defence and space, which is a five-fold increase over the current level.
Enlargement is a key priority. It is not just a political objective, it is a strategic investment in Europe's stability and prosperity. And that is why we are opening the full toolbox of global Europe to candidate countries, not only technical assistance, but also support for reforms and investments backed by resources.
The farmers and regions would still receive substantial funding, according to the proposal. It also sets aside 302 billion euros to support the farmers. Farmers held a protest in Brussels with influential European farmers' lobby group called Copa Cogeca, calling the day European Agriculture's Black Wednesday.
Everybody is talking, Europe needs to get stronger. But how can you get stronger with an empty stomach? If Europe is worrying about the future, Europe should be worrying about the future of our farmers. And for a future for the farmers need a strong budget, a strong CAP. They don't need a budget which has to be shared with other policies in Europe. So that are we asking today. And that should not only worry our farmers, it should worry all European civilians.
Joining us with more is DW correspondent Chiponda Chimbelu in Berlin. Chiponda, what is Brussels planning right now?
Thanks for having me. Well, this is actually a 1.98 trillion euro budget to be precise. And that amount is just over 1% of the EU's GDP. Now, this is the bloc's next long-term budget. So it is actually supposed to take effect in 2028 and run until 2034. The budget proposal gives us a sense of where the EU's priorities lie and, of course, also how it plans for the bloc to remain competitive. Now, Brussels wants to have fewer fixed costs. That would, of course, allow it to be better able to respond to any future crises. In the current budget, which runs until 2027, only around 4% was actually for unplanned costs. So that is what made it very, very difficult for the European Commission to respond to crises like that. 4% was actually for unplanned costs. So that is what made it very, very difficult for the European Commission to respond to crises like the COVID-19 pandemic and Russia's war in Ukraine. And that is why Brussels wants more money, perhaps, and also more flexibility. It says it needs to be able to be more responsive. Now, right now, any major changes to spending have required the approval of the EU Parliament and its member states as well. And that can take long. But before the European Commission's budget proposal and its reform do take effect, it too will need the approval of the European Parliament and the EU's 27 member states.
Chiponda, how are the European countries responding to this now?
Well, the EU budget proposal hasn't gone down very well here in Berlin. A government spokesperson said that the increase is unacceptable. And that is because European governments are trying to adjust their own budgets because they're being forced to spend more on defense. Now, other EU governments are likely to have similar responses. The EU budget is funded by member state contributions based on their gross national income, value-added tax, and also customs duties. So the fact that the European Commission wants more flexibility is not necessarily a welcome thing as well, because by delegating some of the decision-making on spending to national budgets, the EU Parliament will lose some of the influence it has on spending. So that is something that will also be unwelcome in the EU Parliament as well. So the support for this is going to be quite tricky.
All right. Thank you so much, Chiponda Chimbulu, for joining us from Berlin and getting the latest from there on this. We're heading for a short break, but still to come on the other side. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Shankar met with Republic of Korea presidential delegation of special envoys in New Delhi. Indian Army successfully destroyed 2 high-speed flying aerial targets at high altitude in the Ladakh sector. And on the issue of US threat of secondary sanctions on whoever is engaging with Russia, Union Minister Hardeep Singh Puri says that India as a nation have diversified and built resilience.
Jharkhand will mesmerize you with majestic nature, rich heritage and colorful culture.
Johar.
Johar.
It fits perfectly.
Thank you. Full workout हो गया. Ready?
Postcards from Jharkhand on National Geographic.
Welcome back after that short break. You're watching DD India Live. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Shankar met with Republic of Korean presidential delegation of special envoys in New Delhi on Thursday. The minister, in a social media post, said that discussions were held on economic, technology, defense and maritime cooperation, in addition to expanding people-to-people exchanges. External Affairs Minister added that India will engage the new administration actively and work towards further enhancing the special strategic partnership. The Ministry of External Affairs has confirmed that the execution of Nimisha Priyas, Indian nurse facing death penalty in Yemen, has been postponed after sustained diplomatic interventions in recent days. MEA spokesperson Ranthir Jaiswal said that India aimed at securing a mutually agreeable solution between Nimisha Priyas' family and that of the victim.
This is a very sensitive matter, and the Government of India has been offering all possible assistance in the case. We have provided legal assistance and also appointed a lawyer to assist the family. We have also arranged for regular consular visits by a family, and we are also in touch with local authorities as also the family members to resolve this issue. The local authorities in Yemen have postponed carrying out her sentence that was scheduled for 16 July that you're well aware of. We continue to closely follow the matter and render all possible assistance in the case. We are also in touch with some friendly governments in this regard.
Reacting to NATO chief remark on secondary restrictions in the wake of fresh sanctions on Russian oil trade, External Affairs Ministry spokesperson said that India is closely monitoring the developments. He reiterated that securing energy needs of country's people is understandably an overriding priority for the government.
We have seen reports on the subject and are closely following the developments. Let me reiterate, and I've said this in the past as well, securing energy needs of our people is understandably an overriding priority for us. In this endeavor, we are guided by what is there on offer in the markets, as also by the prevailing global circumstances. We would particularly caution against any double standards on the matter.
India's Petroleum and Natural Gas Minister Hardeep Singh Puri said that Urja Varta 2025 plays a key role in accelerating India's exploration and production sector. Urja Varta aims to become a critical platform for shaping the future of India's energy landscape and reinforcing country's commitment to sustainability and innovation in energy domain. The minister highlighted that he expects the new round of hydrocarbon exploration being launched in India to strike several big Guyana-sized oil fields.
We opened up, out of our 3.5 million square kilometers of sedimentary space, we've opened up 1 million square kilometers. In the 10th round of Open Acreage Licensing Policy, or OALP, we are offering what, 257,000 square kilometers of bid. This is the largest ever. I don't know, there may have been some earlier, but from what I read in the statistics, probably the largest ever bid. When we did the 9th round of OALP, 38% of bids came in this 1 million square kilometers, which was opened out. No-go area.
And while commenting on US President Donald Trump's secondary tariff threat against India, Union Minister Hardeep Singh Puri said that India diversified its sources of buying oil and is not facing pressure over Trump's new threat. He was speaking at Urja Varta in New Delhi.
India has diversified the sources of supply, and we have gone, I think, from about 27 countries that we used to buy from to about 40 countries now. In the last 10, 11 years, 16% of the growth in the energy markets, crude oil, has come from India. Yeah. And if you believe in the analysis of the International Energy Agency, a very credible analysis, that in the next 2 decades, 25% of the global growth is going to come from India. If more and more people were to buy from the other OPEC sources, you know what would have happened? Prices would have gone up minimum to $130, $140 a barrel.
Moving on, India has achieved a significant military achievement. The Indian Army successfully destroyed 2 high-speed flying aerial targets at high altitude in Ladakh sector. This action was carried out through Akash Prime. Akash Prime, the upgraded variant of Akash weapon system, successfully engaged and destroyed 2 aerial high-speed unmanned targets during trials at high altitude in Ladakh sector. The weapon system is customized to operate in altitude above 4,500 meters and has latest upgrades including indigenously developed radio frequency seeker. This success is being considered a major step in the field of Indian air defense capabilities. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh has complimented the Indian Army, Defence Research and Development Organisation and the industry on this remarkable achievement. He described the success as a significant boost to India's air defence capabilities, particularly for meeting high-altitude operational requirements. India is rapidly advancing towards achieving complete indigenous production of the AK-203 assault rifles by December this year, official sources in Indo-Russian Rifle Private Limited confirmed. The Army received 35,000 of these rifles, being manufactured under a joint Indo-Russian venture in UP's Amethi in 2024. By 2026, the company aims to produce 120,000 rifles annually, fabricated entirely in India, from raw material supply to final assembly. The landmark development marks a major stride in country's defence self-reliance initiative.
We have achieved 50% indigenization as on date as I am talking to you. We intend to achieve 70% indigenization, which is stage 4, by October of this year. And we plan to achieve 100% indigenization by 31st of December 2025. So the plan is to have the first 100% Indian-made AK-203, which we shall call as Sher, by 31st December 2025. In terms of production, we have already delivered to Indian Army close to 48,000 rifles in last 18 months. These rifles are being used in all the borders and in CICT operations very effectively, with zero complaints. Soldiers are super happy about the rifles that they are using.
Now, G20 chair South Africa warned on Thursday that abandoning the rules-based global order and declining cooperation could derail 2030 development goals to end hunger, eradicate extreme poverty and fight climate change. In his opening remarks, South Africa's finance minister said the G20 must provide strategic global leadership, cooperation and action in the face of complex challenges. The blueprint adopted by all United Nations member states in 2015 includes 17 targets on areas such as education, climate action and gender equality.
Climate-related shocks and extreme weather events are increasing in frequency and severity worldwide. impacting lives, livelihoods, and macroeconomic stability. The cumulative impact of these cascading challenges is pushing the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals by 2030 further out of reach.
Let's now take a look at other stories making news around the world in brief. Black smoke and fireworks exploded after the main stage of Tomorrowland Festival in Belgium caught fire on Wednesday. The cause of the fire was not yet clear. Local media reported a large number of emergency services at the scene and said local authorities advised the residents to keep windows and doors closed. Parts of South Korea were battered by torrential downpours on Thursday, triggering widespread flooding that left at least 2 people dead and forced more than 1,000 residents to evacuate. The Korea Meteorological Administration confirmed record-breaking rainfall in some of the areas and warned of continued wet weather through Thursday night, raising fears of further disruption. Taipei came to a brief standstill on Thursday when air raid sirens prompted people to seek shelter in nearby buildings or underground areas in an annual air raid exercise aimed at preparing for a Chinese missile attack. During the drill, police in Taipei guided people to safety while traffic was halted to prevent the accidents. China, that claims Taiwan as its territory, has ramped up its military pressure over the past 5 years. Britain's Royal Mail is marking 75th anniversary of American comic strip Peanuts with a set of 8 new stamps depicting Charlie Brown, Snoopy and fellow beloved characters. The designs feature specially adapted Peanuts artwork with some British touches, including Snoopy and Woodstock as guards outside Buckingham Palace. And that's all for this edition of DD India Live. But do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download it right now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Deepika, and from all of us here in New Delhi, thank you so much for watching DD India Live.